Today I'm making an ikebana for a flower show, and my experience with the flower shows has been, for the most part, they want strict adherence to the rules and don't seem to appreciate the freestyle so much. So it depends, I guess, a lot on who the flower judge would be and what their experience is, but most of the time, if they say they want an Asian style or a style showing water, they want something that is in would say within the rules, maybe not necessarily the classic style, because there's so many schools of ikebana. Originally studied in the Ikenobo, which is the oldest, and then the Sugetsu is very modern, so you can do almost anything you like, and you'll see very large installations that may surprise you as ikebana if you're not experienced with seeing the different kinds of variations that are done. So what I will do is do a very, very basic Moribana. This particular flower show, they want to show water, and so that's the Moribana style. I will use an ikebana bowl. Now for the very basic style, a lot of times it's preferred to use a really low saucer, but this has to also last for 3 days, and I know they're not going to be watering the arrangements. So I need enough water, and this is still open enough where they can see the water and can still be considered in that basic style. I may use the tulips. I will keep them fairly low because they tend to keep growing, and so in 3 days, who knows how long they're going to be. But there's a few other things that are blooming. There's some daffodils left outside, and there's some hyacinths that are blooming. So I'm going to see what kind of branches I can find, and then I will analyze the branches and see, in the very basic style, we will have that heaven line, the longest line, the man, and then the earth, the lowest area of the cluster of flowers, which I'll use for the floral, either the tulips or the hyacinths, down in the low part. But depending which way the branches would like to go will tell me where to put them in the kenzan. So in this basic style, we'll put them in the kenzan in like sort of a triangle, right? But where the longer heaven line goes depends a lot on which variation we want to do of the basic style, or which way the branches would like to face. Although I have the kenzan up. In some styles of ikebana, everything has to be placed in a straight line. But in this case, they'll be in the triangle. So there's not one rule or one school, and even in the different schools, there are freestyle ways you can go. So what I'll do now is go and see what kind of branches I can find, and we'll go from there. Now, even for the height of the heaven line, the longest one, there's different variations of the rules. So if we say the height of the container and the width of the container, that's one measurement. But then also we can go longer than that. We can go twice that size. So those rules are also flexible. A lot of it has to do with your eye. But then in a freestyle arrangement, you might see a very, very tiny container. It could even be not a bowl, but maybe just a rock or a piece of wood or a cup that might be used. And someone might use something excessively long to create something different and more abstract, and that would be in the freestyle. So I will do a few more arrangements today just for creativity and for myself, that I'll go by what I'd like to do in the freestyle. But this one I'm going to stick pretty close to those basic rules. And then the next line down from heaven will be about 3/4 to 2/3 of the highest one, and then proportionately lower than that. And when I do decide which way I'm going to place them, I will talk about the angles. And again, the angles, I'll strictly stay with them for this particular arrangement. But if I was doing freestyle, I can adjust those however I might like as well. Here I have a couple choices. This is a bit of a pear, ornamental pear. You can see the nice dark color there with the blossoms, and we have no leaves here. Now there's a lot of cicada damage there, you can see on the branches, which can't be helped. Everything that I cut is going to have that problem. I have here also crabapple branch. So here just leaves, and you can see the cicada damage is extensive. We had the huge brood last summer, and they really did a job on these trees. Now the branch that I cut from the ornamental pear is already about the right size. If I measure there the width of the container and then stand it up, so I'm right about where I need to be. I'll just have to sharpen the edge here to help it stay in the kenzan, and there's some cleanup to be done here, so I have to decide which ones I'm going to do. So there may be a preference in the flower shows for this type of thing where there's just a minimal amount of leaf structure on the branch and not the blossom. But I'm leaning a little bit towards the pear because of the thickness of the branch against the bowl. So either one would work. I'll have to make a decision here and go from there. Because of the curve of this main branch, this heaven line, I've decided that I'll do a basic slanting design. So the heaven line, the main and heaviest line, is coming to the front corner of the kenzan, and it's leaning towards me. I may be able to produce a little bit stronger angle there and still stay within the basic rules, but it's a pretty heavy branch, so we'll see how that goes. And the angle of the main branch is leaning towards 45 degrees, and then the secondary line here is about 15 degrees. And I'm also going to angle that just a little bit more this way. So we have 2 points of the triangle so far, and then the third one right here for the earth or the floral design will be into this area. You can see the proportion of the heaven line and the man line. They're always an asymmetrical shape. I'll experiment now with the tulips. They're very fresh, so they're not floppy at this point. They're still nice and firm, but they do need to come out this way. And so if it looks like they're going to need support, then I'll have to do something to help support them over the next couple of days, or choose a different flower. But we'll go ahead and see how this goes with the tulips. These soft stems are best cut in water. We always say that about roses, but it's good for any of your floral material, so that you don't get any air bubbles in there. Very little outside right now in the way of foliage to use. So we'll see. I may just stay with the foliage that's on the tulips. They are wanting to curve quite a bit already. This last element should have a pretty strong lean, almost to 75 degrees. I'm a little distrustful about doing this with the tulip because over the next few days it could hit the edge of the bowl. But if that becomes a problem, I can take a branch and then wire it into the tulip. So I'll see how they're doing tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll give it a strong angle today. And then if I need to reinforce it, I'll go ahead and do that before it's delivered to the show. You have to use a lot of judgment and taste because I'm going to fill in. I could put another floral element. I could put some baby's breath if I had it, or I can put leaves in there, and then just how much you'd like to add, that will be your own taste. So I'm going to leave it just as it is. In this slanting design, everything is leaning forward. You can see that a little bit better if I go above it. So all the elements have a forward feeling to them. Now the angle's there, so the heaven line is roughly 45 degrees. Now you can see the branch has a curve to it, and I like the branches that have a little bit more shape to them, but the basic angle is about 45 degrees and then leaning forward. And then the second line, I've reinforced it with a bit of a twig back there so that it could lean a little bit more forward and roughly 15 degrees to the side. Now it has different branches coming off of it, and I chose not to eliminate them. So there again, that could be the taste of another person doing this. Might want to cut this branch off or not. So I'm leaving a lot of the flowers on there, but I've trimmed all of the extra branches and a few of the flower heads. And of course you could make that more spare and really cut off a lot of the flowers if you wanted. You can see the triangle in the kenzan, and then the last element, the earth here, is also coming forward, and the main line is leaning closer to the 75 degrees that we're looking for in this sort of basic slanting design. And I've chosen here because of the shape of the flowers coming forward to allow that curve and to bring this detail in the vase to the front. Crabapple now is what I'll use for the main lines, and this is just a saucer that goes with a planting pot, so it's not a real classic ikebana bowl, but it is what we would use usually for these basic arrangements. Very low like this. It's just not as expensive as the ikebana bowls, although a lot of people will use just a plastic bowl to get started. So now we're going to do the reverse of this one. So what I'm going to do is put the main line slanting about 45 degrees to the front. So it's going to be coming towards me and also leaning sideways and leaning forward. I have to clean up the branch quite a bit, and I will put more water in here after I move it. This is really hard to move if it's full, but I need quite a bit of water to get the pins covered. Clean up a lot, but also to measure the branch. And just make a judgment about how much you'd like to take off. So this one will also come forward and out to the side, making the second part of my triangle. So we'll go a little bit less of an angle on this one and bring it forward. I have my second branch in. This is the back part of the triangle. And the kenzan in this case is pushed back into the corner of the circle, and so now my floral element of earth will be coming out here again with that very low angle of roughly 75 degrees. You see how the tulips want to behave. This is the basic slanting now in reverse. I will add more water. So again, everything is leaning forward with the most extreme line being the floral element. And I may tweak this a little bit, bring these down slightly to face front. Here I've added another line. You can add additional lines, like I was saying, if you want a few more floral elements or some leaves can be added in there, but you can still see the main directional lines and the placement there of the kenzan, which if we were to move that around, you would have a completely different effect. As you change things around, but this is for this basic style, is to be in the back corner. You can see the triangle of the main stems here and here.